just so good to see you, especially because I'm seeing faces that I haven't seen for a while. So Jazz is here as well, Fiona Craner as well. Good to see you. So good to see you. Anna is here. Antonella, Bev, very nice to see you. Bev, I'm very close to you. I'll approach you later. Yeah.
Okay.
Look at what I'm wearing. Nice. Okay. Blanca is here. Brent as well. Brian, Chris, Edward, Ermila. So good to see you again. Fiona as well. Fiona, Alan,
Hi.
Jonathan Fletcher, Lynn, Marie Carmen, Maria, Mark, Steve. Okay. So how are you guys? All good? Yeah.
Yes, we're good.
Good, thank
Yeah.
you.
Great.
Thanks.
Not bad.
Good, thank you.
How was? Can you please, while we will take turns to talk, but can I ask you very quickly to silence your microphones so that to avoid background noise? Okay. So I hope you've been doing great. Let me just start by congratulating Blanca. Blanca, you had a huge success this week. Yeah.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
we
We'll
have
see.
to. Yeah, we'll see. We have to refine the search and the quality of the leads, but this lady has been amazing. So this week, she'll share afterwards what she's done. Yeah. If you don't mind, you share your secret because I think it's worth mentioning. In any case, today I would like us to talk a little bit, to consider some, to discuss some considerations about performance. Yeah, all of you already have some experience and maybe some direct observations on students' performance and output. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it and see how that relates to also the student investment, because these are very important issues that we have to ask ourselves. Yeah, what performance we are providing for our students. Of course, what is our performance in class as well? Can we not do something to improve it? But especially, what the student expects to receive when they register for English classes? And I don't mean just with us, but in general. Yeah, we're going to compare and contrast some of the practices, some of the solutions that are provided there for people. So there is one question that we're very frequently asked, which is, and I'm sure that you've had it one way or another, that question. So this is, how can I, a student, yeah, asking this, how can I optimize my learning? How can I optimize my learning? What else can I do to improve? What do you recommend me to improve the output of my investment? Because eventually, what people want is to learn in the best possible way and fast. Yeah, we've mentioned that in previous meetings. They want to go for something that is going to be very effective and cost effective. So have you been asked this question, guys? Yes. Blanca, do you want to tell us about it?
Yeah, I think that this is something that probably the question I get asked the most from students. What can I do on my own? I actually wrote a blog post about it, but I always tell them just do something that you're interested in because you're going to stick with it, and then that's how you're going to actually get practice with. If you're trying to force yourself to study for an hour a day and you're not enjoying it, you're going to find every excuse not to do it. So if you like movies, watch a movie in English. If you like to read something in English.
Do you know what are the students' most common practices in this regard when they think of helping themselves? What is their solution?
Yeah. Um, I think that I think it depends on the student, but I think that they all try to force themselves to, study and learn the grammar and whatever. And because they're really motivated at first, but then it just kind of dies out. Um, I don't know if
It,
that answers your question.
yeah, that absolutely perfectly. Why does it die out? in your opinion?
Because they're doing boring things. They're doing things they don't like. Right? And
Okay.
then just
Yeah.
like when we try to, I don't know, lose weight, and we start off really into the diet, and then you see a cheesecake and you eat the cheesecake.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, yeah, yeah. What? Okay, that's great. I agree with that. What do the rest of you think? Any other experience? Have you been asked this question? How to optimize results? Chris, you have extensive experience. What is the students' concern in this regard? Chris, we cannot hear you. You're muted. It's okay. While you unmute your microphone, Anna, do you want to go for it?
Yeah, just one of the examples students tend to do on their, well, when they have free time, when they want to improve English. The most classical one is to watch series in English with Spanish subtitles. Thing that doesn't work forever and ever. Mark is laughing because you know what I mean. And I always tell my students, I mean, I prefer you to watch the movie in Spanish, but to put English subtitles, because
Mhm.
this is the only way you can improve these type of things, right? But again, of course, the most the best advice that can be given here is to English film or English movie with English subtitles they want, or even without subtitles if possible. But this is the most common practice I ever had, and it basically concerns kids, teenagers, adults, senior adults, and so on. So that's basically one of the most typical ones. And beside that, some of my students they used to have kind of grammar books from before, with they like to complete sometimes, and this is something that, again, something that is boring, that doesn't make them learn, but they consider that this is something that would actually help them in learning, right? So you as a teacher, you have to convince them that maybe it's not the best way to do that, right? I mean, it's good for some, maybe points for some time, just to you to practice. They like doing this type of exercise, but it doesn't motivate anyone, and it doesn't help anyone. So that's basically the practices I know I've heard.
Why do you think students have that, that need to buy a book, even though they know that it's boring, even though they know that they won't go past page 10, for instance, but they ask for it? What grammar book do you recommend? Why is that, in your opinion?
Well, I think that this is something that comes from school, right? When we were children, we used to use books. I used books when I was learning English myself. I used to have plenty of grammar books, completing exercises. Thing that did not work actually. So I think that this is kind of a traditional education, that the way to learn a language is to learn the grammar of the language with a book of grammar of this particular language, right? That's basically kind of tradition that comes from before.
Okay. Mark, you want to add something?
Yeah, I just think, can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I agree with everything that Anna's been saying, but I think a lot of it is with schools. I mean, I see this with my son. He has, I mean, his English is perfect, but again, it's the bad way that things are taught at schools. You have these kind of tests on irregular verbs, and he does really badly because that's not, he can speak, but just remembering these verbs, you're given a Spanish translation, which may not be the translation you use, and it's all done. The system is kind of broken, really, at schools. It's
But
very sad,
but
and
hold
it,
on a
and it does
second.
make it boring.
But do you not speak to your son in English?
Yeah, and he speaks English perfectly. But the thing is, when
And yet he
he's
does bad
told
in tests.
in verb
Or
tests, because it's like you're told one word, which is often not correctly, it's not the translation that maybe we would use for it, the understanding of it.
yeah.
And then, just remembering the irregular, but also spelling is not something that we really practice a lot at home. And things are marked in a bad way. I think that the whole school system of education, of teaching of teaching languages at school is not really correct, you know. And it's
I
like
want
a
to.
lot of it is based on translation. You know, it's like
Yeah.
translate this, translate that, and what is this? You know, what is this in Spanish? And really, you know, if you're thinking via another language, you're not going to be fluent. You're not going to be fluent. It's not going to be there. I mean, those of you who are there, you know, here who are not native speakers, you know that you can all speak English fluently because you've got over that hump of translating everything.
Can I just take a minute to reflect on that? Do you guys realize how absurd this is, this situation? We have here a native speaker and a son of a native speaker who is a native speaker is failing tests or not doing so great in tests because he's failing what on the list of irregular verbs and spelling and
I mean, there's an
translating.
obsession in this country with tests. There is sadly an obsession with parents, and children get it into their heads. I mean, those of you who have children will know this. Those of you who've been through the Spanish school system will know this. That it is basically, you know, and not just with English, but it's just, you know, you've got to pass the test. It doesn't matter whether you understand it, whether you appreciate it, whether you've actually learnt something. But if you can remember in time for the test, then, you know, that's considered cool and you get marked up for that, which is sad, really, you know.
If you could give one advice to parents in this regard, Mark, what would it be?
I think you've got to, the fluency and the understanding is much more important than just checking boxes. You know, you've got to you won't have you know, the way stuff is taught at school is not really or at least in Spain, in my experience, is not conducive to fluency. You know,
That's
and
amazing.
fluency is what it's all about. You know, I mean, yeah, if you're going to be somebody who needs to understand English, you know, in your own language or something like that, and never need to communicate with anyone in any way, then, you know, maybe it's passable, but it's not the best way, you know.
Yeah, well, that's the best evidence that there is something absolutely wrong in
I mean, I also met a student many years ago. I had a class, I was preparing some air traffic controllers for their English exam. And a guy turns up, he has an English name. And I'm thinking, what? And he speaks and he said, well, I am, you know, my mother is British. My father is American. My parents got divorced. I was born here in Spain. You know, I couldn't speak Spanish for the first 5 years of my life. And yet I was failing the English exams because I didn't understand the grammar. And that the British and American people here will know this, that we don't, you know, they've started it now. We don't study grammar that way. We don't study our own grammar that way. And it's been introduced in Britain. And a lot of people are saying, this is terrible. This is just destroying the enjoyment of English classes. It is just making it tedious rather than fomenting creativity. It's just, you know, making it dull and technical and boring, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But this is another problem, of course, with teaching children, is that, you know, they need to pass their exams and they need to, you know, this is the kind of difficult thing that, you know, the right thing is to get the children fluent and, you know, not thinking in Spanish. But of course, they do need to learn all these things to pass these exams at school. So that's
How
a kind
sad
of
is that?
another hurdle. It's very sad.
It's sad. On the other hand, I will ironically say that it's also reassuring for Spanish parents. If your kid is struggling with exams, then there is a hope for them as well. Yeah, but this is very, very sad.
Yeah. Or el consuelo de muchos. Consuelo de, what does it say?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. It's
Absolutely.
tough, and I don't think it's you know, it obviously shows that the system is flawed. I mean, yes, it's true. My son needs to improve his spelling and his writing and his imagination, but that's not really worked out at school either. You know?
We're going to take another session to talk about how you improve your son's spelling. Yeah, but that's for another session because it's a whole different. Yeah. I'm very interested. But now we have Fiona who would want to say something as well. So go for it, Fiona.
Hi, Radmilla. Can you hear me okay?
Okay, yeah.
Okay, good. I just unmuted. Yeah, so I wanted to just go back to your question at the beginning about the student saying, what else can I do to improve? How can I optimize my learning?
Yeah.
I think it's really important that the student asks themselves, why do I really want to learn English? What is my true motivation? And if they can really narrow that down, then they will be able to focus on the type of activities that are going to help them improve. Let me give you an example. I have a student I've been working with for the past couple of weeks, and she understands very clearly that her real motivation in learning English is because within her family, one of them, her son, is going to marry a Filipino lady. The Filipino lady can only speak a little bit of English, and this is going to be the only way that they can communicate. They are both committed to learning English in order to be able to communicate effectively with each other. And I thought, well, this is very, very interesting. So she has a real personal motivation that is really spurring her on to improve what was her English that she learnt at school many years ago. And she is committed to learning and has been putting in not just the hours with me, but also hours outside of class in order to improve her spoken English. And so as a teacher, I've been able to use that in order to look at topics that will actually be relevant to that conversation between her and the person with whom she wants to communicate. She actually said to me, I want to be able to go into the kitchen, talk about preparing food, talk about preparation of meals with my new daughter-in-law. And so I said, okay, let's do that. Let's talk about, how we describe preparing a meal, or the vocabulary that is needed, the verbs that are needed. Let's have a discussion. Let's role play it.
How
So
strange she didn't ask you for the irregular verb columns. Yeah, she didn't ask about that.
yeah, yeah,
But
exactly. She wants to use this in real life, and she's very, very focused. And so, as a teacher, I can use that information in order to deliver exactly what she needs. Exactly what she needs. And I have to listen to her, and I have to be guided. I'm not going to just go down a preconceived program that I maybe thought at the beginning when I first met her. I've had to listen every day to what she wants to achieve and adapt so that I can give her exactly what she needs. So I think that's an important part of my role as a teacher, to listen, to understand what the student is trying to achieve, and then give them the tools to achieve those objectives.
I absolutely agree with you. My only contribution to what you said is that actually there is a lot you're thinking of how you can best help your student, which is exactly the teacher's attitude. Now, my worry has always been, or our concern has always been, and how can we help you help your student? Because I do believe that you also need help, and a strong one. Only because with that student, it's a great attitude to listen to her needs and to try to store them all. Now, whenever you have a whole lot of different people to teach and to take care of, and different motivations and different objectives and different inputs and outputs, then the complexity is
Mm.
really high. So
Yes, yes, of course. I'm only able to do this because I'm providing her one-to-one tuition. It's a different story if you have group sessions, clearly.
and you have there a highly motivated person that will, you as you said, will put also her extra time to achieve these objectives. Yeah, but
Yes.
even students with this high profile, to me, they also need some further guidance. Yeah, we can help them further. we'll see how, but this is what we are discussing, but we definitely can help them further. That reminds me of we had a lady years ago, and her motivation, she was to be able to speak with her grandchildren in English because they were born and raised in the UK. And you can't imagine how quickly she progressed at the age of, she was above 70. Yeah.
Yeah.
So these are very powerful
Very
cases
powerful
of
motivators, yes.
motivate. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. Now, Chris has something to mention as well. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
I'm interested to see what the material of Synergy has, how I can use that to help. Because as Fiona was saying, if you understand your student and you know what they want, what they need, then you can tailor it to them. But if you're using other material, maybe that's not so easy. For instance, when I was in Panama for a while, I had an Italian student, and I discovered we had a mutual interest in football.
Yeah.
So I used to start the class by calling up the BBC Sport webpage, and there's always a column about potential transfers, and I would just talk to him about football. And it wasn't as if it was an English class. We were talking about football, and we just happened to be doing it in English.
Yeah. Okay, so what's your concern, that the material can do not adapt to the student?
Well, I haven't really seen much material yet, so I'm interested to see how I can use it.
Okay, I would agree with you if we used textbook material, because textbooks never think of that individual that likes football. They go one by one, you know, the units. Now this is about presenting oneself. Then we talk about at the supermarket. Then we talk about football. Maybe if you're interested, it's all right. If you're not interested, sorry. This is the book. Yeah, this is the book content. Now, there are two things I think that we have to differentiate. One is what engages with the student, what topic engages with the student. The second thing is what are the learner's needs, what gaps do they have, and how and what we do to fill them. So the level obviously, or it's much easier when the level is higher, because yeah, we can kind of rely on certain fluency there, and then we can create rapport and we can elicit easily their interests. But to me, there are always two different things, very different things. What you're interested in and what you need to be taught because you don't know it. Yeah, so there are two types of adaptations that you can do. The first is the system will adapt to the student automatically by detecting what they know and what they don't know. That is something that the system can do easily, because it's very easy for technology of big data to understand and interpret inputs. Yeah, so you don't need even to worry about that too much. Of course, you will be detecting, as someone was explaining before, Fiona was explaining, that she's observing a lot and she's paying attention to what the student needs. Yeah, so you can do that, but so will the system. So if even more when a student does consistent mistakes, yeah, it's not just a slip of the tongue, it's a mistake. So it's inconsistency of knowledge. Yeah, sometimes you will spot it right away. Sometimes you won't. But what will happen is that the system will list some activities for that so that you provide the practice for it. Yeah. Another story is, okay, so how do I dress, for instance, that content that, okay, I see here that the use of prepositions is kind of, wrong, yeah, consistently. So I need to practice that. I need to reinforce that. How do I do it? Yeah. So how do you do it is, of course, again, as in everything, you can choose, and you can say, okay, since you're interested in football, I'm going to bring an article and then it will engage with you. Fine. Or I can have an activity that is ready for that purpose, that goes straight to the point. Yeah, so it's being conceived to attack this weakness, so to speak. Yeah. Now, these are the so-called activities for accuracy. Yeah, we have the vocabulary ones, we have the grammar ones that provide all these or that come to cure or to solve these issues, these problems. If your student is very engaged in football, fine, that's great. We have a whole, you can, again, you can bring the article, or we can say, as him or her, there will be many people engaged in sports. Let's create a sports syllabus. We're teaching someone that is now a mechanic. Yeah, she's a sports mechanic. And she's learning English from scratch, from zero. She's super engaged with her. Maybe Patricia is here. She's teaching her, actually. She's one of her teachers.
Yeah, I am. I was
Okay.
late, sorry, but
Yeah. So, but yet, what Patricia is helping here for that lady Mara, I think, to achieve is okay. Yeah, I know that you love motorbikes, but you need also to be able to put that in a coherent sentence. So again, these are two completely different things. If you base your class only on the things that the student enjoys talking about, I will ask you, first of all, what's the performance? How do you measure it? Do you speed it? Yeah, if the student accepts to join your class as a social club, fine, no problem. But if a student has some objectives, specific objectives, then you have to ask yourself these questions. Another thing, I'll give you some facts to all of you to reflect upon. Do you know how long is the estimation for a student to scale up a level? Do you more or less know what Cambridge recommends?
No.
No, none of you. You can Google that. It's 200 hours, 200 class hours from A1 to A2, for instance, or from B1 to B2, or from B2 to C1. 200 hours. Do you guys realize how much time this is? Okay, yeah, it's a lot of time, isn't it? Now, do you realize how much money this is? Have you ever made the numbers? Because I have. So if a student wants to start from A1 and they want to achieve C1, according to this scale, to the European framework, to Cambridge, to all these, big eminences in education, they have to pay for 1,000 hours and more, maybe. They have to pay for the books, they have to pay for the exams. And if the average if they get a private teacher, that equals 20,000 euros. That is insane. Okay, so if you think of that from that point of view of the performance, then we inevitably have to ask ourselves, first of all, can we not provide a better solution? Second, yeah, it's fine for me to talk with the student about sports and football, etc. But is it really worth the money? Yeah, we have to ask ourselves these questions. Maybe the answer is yes, we go ahead, we do it. But we have to definitely put them on the table. So when we talk about performance, we tend to forget that the student has to make an investment there. And we have to make the most of their money. Yeah. So who do you think benefits the most from these periods of learning, that long periods of learning? Who do you think benefits?
The school.
First the school, then who else? The people, that publishers, right? Those who will sell the books for that. Yeah, and then private teachers, of course, they're interested in that learning to last forever. But now, either we ask or we walk in the student shoes, or here we're not going to make any difference. Yeah, that's why output performance is a key factor to be measured and analyzed very, very thoroughly in our classes. Yeah. So how much do you think a student should pay for learning a language? Let's think out of common sense. What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't want to
3,000
pay
euros.
anything like $20,000.
I guess you wouldn't. How much do you think it's kind of acceptable?
I don't know, if I was spending, say, 50 euros a week, then I would expect to get something for that.
Yeah, and how much time do you think it's kind of is necessary, or how well it's viable or feasible?
Yeah, I mean, everybody's different and everybody's got different requirements. So it's a question of how much time the student is prepared to invest in this.
Okay, to that I agree, of course. And again, I don't know why I'm kind of binary, because I always see two things. But I'll put two things again on the table. One is how much time, pay time they invest, or pay time like class time, how much own time. Yeah. What do you think the proportion should be? Let's think, because these questions are essential. After we answer them, we will be able to draft a strategy for a student. We will be able to quantify that. What do you think, Anna?
Well, I think the best option would be if they're looking for quick results, right? If that's kind of urgent situation or urgent need, 2 classes per week, at most. It doesn't matter if it's half an hour, 1 hour. So just 2 classes per week with a teacher, just to refresh things. And then I would say 70% of their of the result would depend on them. Actually, when students sometimes approach me and ask, how much time do you think I will need to learn a language, right? I will say, well, it depends on you, right? In the best of the practices, right? If you follow all the rules, if you do a lot of extra work outside of the class, then probably in 2 years, you would be fluent, right? But if you don't do anything on your own, then of course it would take a bit longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think the proportion should be like 30% with the teacher or the class, the learning process, and 70 the extra work.
Okay, you have that proportion. Anyone else? That proportion is interesting. I would want to know your opinion on it, on that proportion. Mari Carmen, you raised your hand before, and I'm sorry, I didn't ask you. So would you like to give your opinion?
Yeah, actually, I put my hand down because I just wanted to agree 100% with Mark, because I'm under the same situation. But I wanted to point out concerning this issue with schools and the way they learn, and the way parents are happy or not about it. So my conclusion to this, since I've got exactly the same case as Mark, my son speaks English better than Spanish, and he doesn't have good results at school because of the books, the grammar, literally what Marcus said. So that goes to show that parents are way more worried. In fact, I was talking to Maria this week about this because of a student we have. And what happens is that they need to realize that, we've got no choice but accepting what is taught at school and the way they do it, and we disagree with it, but that's what there is. But still, there's no way in a 20 student class that they're going to make them speak one by one and see their advance, the progress, I meant to say. So that's when I always try to encourage them with our system, because that is not going to happen. And I tell them, if you're so worried about the Cambridge exams, etc., you must know that there are 4 parts in that exam. If you're happy with the school concerning grammar, how happy are you about the speaking and listening, which can't occur with 20 or 30 kids or 35, whatever, in the class? And that's when we enter in parallel to consolidating grammar, but in a total different approach so that we go faster. So that's what I wanted to say concerning what Mark was saying before, because it's incredibly sad how kids that are totally fluent, native speaking, and other kids that really have basically no clue, they get 8 out of 10, and your son gets a 5.5 when he's completely native. And that is because even the approach of the grammar of these books that we're talking about don't even explain things properly. So it's not only they concentrate on grammar, but the way they go about it is not even, I mean, at least if they teach grammar, they could just teach it properly, but it doesn't even happen. So it's a total mess. But again, like we've been saying, somebody said before, unfortunately, and we were talking with Maria this week about this, most or many mothers just say, I want my kid to pass the exam. So I say, okay, so you don't want them to speak English, you just want them to have a 10 and that's it. And some of them unfortunately say yes. And that's when I say, well, don't forget that in the eval and any other exam, you are going to need to understand, you're going to need to speak and be fluent, and no one works on that at school. That was just my point from before.
That is absolutely very powerful. And, you know, again, we're going to go back to the percentages, but here, this is important because now that while you guys were talking, I was thinking of all those kids that are students of ours at Oxinity here. And because of our approach and your good working class, these kids are outstanding. The problem that they all have, all of them, all of these kids that have been for some months with us, is that they're top in their class in terms of speaking. Top, they speak at a pretty much native level, because on top of that, parents realize that they have to help them with other things at home. If you can silence, thank you guys, your microphones. But these guys, all of them, have troubles when it comes to testing. So we were approached, we were asked, and that's why I said I'm very interested in the spelling issue, because we have a case of a mom that told us, well, she's great, but at school, in her school, tell me that she doesn't know how to spell properly or something like that. Yeah. So for them, they measure it as a weakness, while for us, it's a big, very big improvement in her speaking skills. Yeah, that kid interacts. She's, I don't know, 8, 9 years old, and she speaks. She speaks. Yeah, and she's learned here with us. Anyway, we will deal with this with this specific problem. See if we can come up with some conclusion. Bev, you wanted to say something as well, and Georgina.
Well, it was really just going back to what's just been discussed with just now about the children at school, and I'm just like completely fascinated by that, because I've just spent 5 years teaching children in China, and now the difference of there's some, I've taught some great kids with Optinity, don't get me wrong, but what's fascinated me was the kids that I had in China, which they were all regular, so I taught the same children every week for 5 years, and whenever they spoke of, they are obsessed with exams in China, absolutely obsessed, or almost weekly and monthly. But the children, whenever they'll say, I had an English exam today. Oh, great. How do you do? I never saw any child that would get less than 95% ever. They were literally, 9 times out of 10, it was 100%. And it's like, I don't know. I can't answer the question, but what do they do right that in the Western world we just don't seem to get at school?
I was just about to ask you this.
Yeah, I literally
would
can't answer that question, because what they learned at school, obviously, I didn't have sort of inside knowledge of, apart from I would ask them, what do you learn at school? I do know that the ones that learn privately, like you were saying, the kids that learn with Oxinity do better in English at school. And I do know that the Chinese children who learn outside of school did better. But I literally don't know. I can't answer that, because to me, there was 5, 6 year olds that you could literally have a fluent conversation with in China. Others not, but some who were obviously kids at all different levels. But I just hearing this has made me think, what the heck? That what is wrong with the education in the Western world compared?
Well, you just named some of the key maybe or of the clues. So that obsession with tests, that obsession with testing something that is not uh, not even relevant at all, you know.
Maybe
So
the fact that the children are comfortable with tests. When Mark was saying about your son, I don't know. I can, from self, I'm even to this day petrified of tests. At school I was terrible in tests because I knew I could know the answer, but because it was a test, I automatically didn't know, or I have no confidence in what I was going to write down, and I was petrified of tests. So I don't know, maybe having more tests, does it make children more relaxed and comfortable that they can, it comes naturally to, I don't know, they're not freaked
well,
out or scared.
well, if they, yeah, of course, if they have a test after test, of course, you end up being a master of tests, of course. But that's the point, that if a native speaker tests themselves on the proficiency exam and they fail, because I had that testimonial. Someone told me, I tried to do a test and I failed, and he was a native speaker, you know. So to me, these are two different things, very, very different. One thing is linguistic competence. I can speak, I cannot. Another one is I can pass a test, I cannot.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it is two completely different things. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Mark, and then Ermila, and then Georgina, you guys have raised your hands.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting what Bev was saying. I mean, I think, I used to teach in Japan, and I remember one case. I mean, Asian countries, China, Japan, Korea, they're very disciplined. They're very disciplined from a young age. And I noticed this especially when I had at one point these two kids come to class, and these kids had been born in America. One of them was born in America. They were Japanese. Their parents were Japanese. They'd been living in America. And they were completely different. You know, their parents were Japanese. They spoke Japanese. They were Japanese. But Japanese kids write in a straight line because they're trained to do that. And these kids couldn't write in a straight line, they're at all. They just wrote a mess, like Spanish kids, like English kids. They didn't have that discipline. And the kids were always like talking in class. And then for me, it was quite surprising because kids didn't do that in Japan. That's not how you behave in a classroom. Yeah. So I think they do have this discipline. They have these extra schools that the parents send them to. I think they get them before the teenage rebellion sets in. That they get into good habits, which is something that we're not that good at either in Britain or in Spain or anywhere in the Western world, I think. And I saw a documentary recently about schools in Korea. They sent some English kids to a school in Korea just as an experiment, and they set them a maths test, and for these kids and the whole school. And the English kids were really struggling. It was like a GCSE test or something like that. And the Korean kids got the test finished in about half the time and said it was really easy. They just have this kind of discipline there, I think, in Asia, or certainly in these three countries. They have a lot more discipline, which is good and bad. Maybe it's more, it fits more with that kind of system of tests and things like that. Mm-hmm. So people are just brought up. I don't know, maybe they start these like tests in primary school or something like that. But it is something they're all a lot used to. Whereas, here in Britain, you can get people who don't care or they're not motivated or something like that. The society makes a lot of difference.
Yeah, very true. That's very true. Yeah. Ermila, you wanted to say something as well?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question about when your students, they ask for extra things to do in their spare time, and an often question that I get is like, what books can I read? Because the ones that I'm teaching, they like to read books, but I never know what to recommend, because I've seen so many different things, like you should recommend books that are adequate for their level, things like that. But then I found websites where you can see which books are according to each level, but then I see that they're not interested in these kind of books. So of course you wouldn't want to read a book you don't like.
Okay.
So I don't know if you guys had any advice or any websites or places where I could find different types of books to be able to recommend to different levels of students.
Okay, so that's absolutely necessary. But in order to answer that question, you have to ask yourself, yeah, of course, low levels, will they read books? Of course, no, they can't at that stage. They need something different, yeah? This is in the first place. The first thing that you have to tell, in my opinion, or I would say, in my opinion too, I would tell my students is, how much I can help them and how much they can help themselves. How much time is necessary for them to work and to increase exposure, and how I can help them as well. Because again, that has to do with their performance. Some of the answers that teachers provide is that, yeah, the more classes you take, the better the outcome will be. Okay, sometimes it's true, sometimes it's just impossible. So this is not a feasible answer for everyone. That's why it's imperative to tell them, to give them Anna was saying, I can help you, 30% is with me, 70% is your own time. Yeah, so whether it is 30 and 70 or 20 and 80 or 10 and 90, doesn't really matter. What matters is that with me, I will be definitely helping you to accelerate learning in class. I know the data about you. I can do that. I can do it. No system alone can do that without you, but you and technology, that you can do. Now, how can I help myself after class? After class, you have a whole lot of tools at your disposal that you can do, that you can have access to. But again, with us, and let me insist on that, this is super important, we have a game. And it's not that I'm pitching for the game and I'm forgetting about the rest. I'll explain about the rest. But now I'm pitching for the game. Why is that? Because the game will help them enormously to provide inputs for the system and so that we know where they fail and what they know and what they don't know. Yeah. So to that advice of books, we'll see what books and at what level and for whom books. Yeah. Definitely you have to say, first of all, do you like playing games? 9 out of 10 will tell you yes. So play the game in the platform. Do that in the first place. Okay. What else do you like? If we have that answered, what else do you like? To those who dislike reading, you cannot offer a book or maybe a certain book to increase awareness towards books. But there are a lot of things that they can do, enjoyable things as well, and that will help them in learning. For instance, some were mentioned here, series, films without subtitles, yeah, that can help them just get the language. Now, the exposure, no matter how chaotic, if increased, will produce a quality jump at some point. So when we accumulate quantity in something, then there will be a quality jump. I don't remember when I learned Spanish. I just don't remember it. But it happened. Yeah. So I was accumulating quantity until I started producing, which is something that will happen to all the students. We're going to talk about that as well in other talks. Books. For kids that love books, there are great books that parents can read, or if they speak English, or kids can read if they are in the age of reading already. For students, you have to ask them, do you enjoy reading? And if so, what? And start by also suggesting some of the blog posts. Do you know how fantastic blog posts we have in the Oxinity blog? I mean, I was reading yesterday about Sonia and how being a scout helped her. That was engaging. I learned, let alone your students. This is 3-minute reading from a teacher in English, that has no price. Or Gergo's motivational quotes, what he tells himself every morning. That is amazing. That is a so great insight into your lives, into your concerns. And on top of that, half of them are in English. This is brilliant. So you have a lot. I mean, look around what you have in this platform and start with it. Grammar book, no way. Grammar book is for grammarians. Grammar book is an aid. Never complies with communicative purposes. Never. To me,
Thank you,
I'm
Camilla.
as firm in that. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. It's because I tend to see that the students, when they want to read, because obviously if you don't speak a different language as well as your native language, it doesn't make you any less knowledgeable. So they tend to have interest in like motivational books or even very specific things like psychology. So if you were to read a book like that in a different language that maybe you're intermediate, you might find a lot of words that you struggle with. And I tend to see that they struggle a lot reading them. But they enjoy reading it. So I don't say anything. I say just keep going and maybe remember these words or write it down and try find out what they mean. So I don't know if maybe they will find that jump while they're reading it. Yeah.
I promise you that they will engage with the blog. The blog readings, these are great, and they're not a book. A book requires some time. Yeah, we're talking about 3 to 5 minute readings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's very helpful. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so Mark and Anna and Georgina and Steve, what do you say, guys?
Oh, sorry. I didn't realize my hand was up. I don't know.
Okay. Then
I must have
Anna?
taken it out. Sorry.
No worries. Anna?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention that, yeah, we are talking a lot about the students' performance, right? How the students perform in the class, what activity they can do outside the class. And a lot of them, they're super motivated from the very beginning. A lot of them, they are keen on learning English. So it's not something that, well, unless their parents put them to do that. But in most of the cases, they are willing to do that. They start with, with the strength. They are wanting to have, plenty classes per week, do a lot of stuff. But for some reason, after some time, it dies out, right? The thing that we mentioned before. And now I think that we forget about what the teacher performance is, right? It's very important to remember that we have the responsibility, even if we have the 30% or 20 or 10% of the students' learning process time, right? But we have to remember that our responsibility is super crucial here, because if we do things wrong, and if we, I don't know, just have a chat in a class instead of teaching them, or we just talk about ourselves and the weather and the traveling, it doesn't work, right? So this is something the student would not pay for, and the student is paying to us, right? I think that we have to remember that the quality of the class would motivate them too to do extra activities. Without this element, the rest would not make sense, basically, I think. Okay.
Yeah. That's great. I really thank you for that, because absolutely can't agree more. Yeah, that the teacher's performance is crucial here. Yeah, and I really want you to quantify how much you think it would be fair for a student to pay for their training in English as a whole. Yeah, if you were the student, how much money you would like to invest and what type of training you would like to have. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Steve, how about you? And Georgina, sorry.
Yeah, no, well, okay. Well, the conversation has progressed so much. But in terms of the reading, I did this today. I realized a student of mine, he's really good at speaking and he has a vocabulary, he has a grammar, but when he reads, he has a hard time. But the thing is, I know his interests. I know that he's interested in gardening, and we've been talking about a very silly concept, which is buying a football stadium. So I went online and I said, hey, you suggest you read. And I directly give him a link to a blog about gardening and a link to the cost of all the best football stadiums in the world. So if I suggest something to read and they're not interested, well, if you know them a little bit, because of course it's not a personal relationship, but if what are you going to do in the weekend? What's your big, you know a bit of stuff about them, so you can always recommend that. And also about this topic, I'm really obsessed with the community this week. So I was thinking maybe we could build together sort of like a database of links and books that we could recommend for each level. So for example, if somebody needs to recommend a book and they're going to spend 2 hours looking for it online, well, maybe we could go to an archive that we have together.
Super good idea.
And
Absolutely.
we can just take it from there because we've selected it just like the blogs. We select it, we categorize it, and there it is. Maybe blogs by topic and by levels. I don't know, something like that.
Yeah, it's amazing. Super good idea. Fantastic. Really, for anything,
and in terms of exams, you are right. If I had to take the first certificate exam when I started teaching, I would have failed for sure. I know it. I know. And the advanced, I might even fail it right now, despite I'm a super teacher of advanced. And the thing is, one thing is to teach to learn a language, and another thing is to teach how to pass an exam. And that's what I have been doing for 3 years. And yes, I have mastered the grammar. Yes, I have mastered how to do the exam. But at one point I was saying, hey, I'm not teaching English. I'm teaching how to pass an exam. So I try to really make my classes meaningful in the speaking side without debates and stuff. But it's right. Some people think that if you have the exam, you know how to speak. And a lot of my ex-students, they speak with infinitives, but they have the exam. So, I build upon what everybody else has said. But nevertheless, I love preparing people for the first certificate, and I like it. But I understand, I understand how it works, but I still like it. So,
because you've mastered it. We like what you master, yeah. But again, I think that there were some very, very powerful testimonials here, and I would love to be able to communicate them, yeah. So not only, I mean, we've started posting these Friday talks on our website with a purpose, yeah. And next, I think that we have to start taking excerpts from these videos and really make it and communicate out loud that there is an alternative, yeah, because there are practices that lead us to 1,000 hours of class time and 20,000 euros of investment, and there are alternatives that shorten that time tremendously. And I want to, but before we go, I want to offer Steve the possibility of sharing his thoughts, because I know that his comments are also always super good.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. What a build-up. No, as I was saying, very similar to Georgina. It's just the great thing about this community. We're all coming from different backgrounds, and some of you are bilingual, fantastic language learners. I started 20 years ago. My first job in a school was a learning resource manager, or effectively in a library of a school. Yeah. So my thing was always, as a curator of learning resources, what we do outside of formal learning. And I remember there was a book in 1979, Michael Rutter, it was 15,000 hours. That was what they calculated the amount of hours you had in school at that time. That's probably when we finished at 16, yeah. And it's about the same outside of class. So of course, whatever we do outside of school is always going to be equally important as what we do inside school. But it's what Georgie is saying. I think we've all got some good ideas in terms of the previous question: what graded learners could we signpost students towards? How do we collate it? How do we collect it? And I'm just wondering what the best place to do that. I mean, the Facebook page, for instance. Do we actively encourage all the students on Oxinity to join Facebook and then interact in real time with teachers there in terms of those resources that we could post there?
We could do much better.
Yeah,
we could do much better. So yeah, I take any advice on that. Yeah.
Yeah. So anything for viewing, listening, and reading. If teachers are actively, interacting with the students in that forum as well, it gives something extra that the students would probably appreciate. I mean, I think Georgina suggested a database or something, but maybe we need to look at something people would use more regularly, more sort of habitually.
Sorry to interrupt you, but the thing, I think it's important to keep the database because it's resourceful for us, but then maybe we can also use it individually to publish it around, I don't know, the book for this month, or month of beginners, or week dedicated to this topic. So I think we could individually use it for our own promotions, but I would definitely rely upon having a database internal for us.
I mean, I think two years ago, I put about 6 pages together of reading resources I'd found, which was stuff that was in the public domain from universities and all sorts. Some of it was graded, some of it was just free stuff from universities, mostly North America. Yeah, so yeah, a lot of us have probably done that stuff. So yeah, as you say, sharing it in some organized way. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, we will create that. I commit to that. Antonella as well wants to say something, but you're muted, Antonella. Yeah, now.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, here I am. Okay, so I was kind of putting everyone's ideas together, and I'm part of a group in Facebook called English for Sharing Worldwide, and what they have is like a part that's called kind of like a multimedia encyclopedia or something like that. So it's like there are different albums and they are dedicated to different topics. So if we have a database and we have a Facebook group, maybe we can put everything together, and every student who is in that Facebook group can access the information we already have. So we don't even have to give it to them because they already have it there, right? So okay, I want to read a book. So they go to that Facebook group and they find an album where they have different books which are adequate for their level.
Yeah, if we do, let's be wise. When we do that, we want them to what? To stay with us, right? So all I say is, yes, 100% yes to sharing resources, but be wise. We want them to stay with you. Blog, yeah? So you guys have that option of putting it in the blog so that they don't have to find whatever in a different place, yeah? So first is first. Let's combine here what is in their interest and what is in your interest, of course. So the blog is something that is there. Use it as much as you can for all these purposes, to refer readings to students, to suggest links to either books or whatever you consider, videos or podcasts or whatever you consider that is engaging. So we can do that. But again, remember what Anna said, 30/70, I would say 20/80 or even 10/90. What you are needed, you're not so much needed. You're needed not so much, but you have to be there definitely. So the 10 or 20 or 30% has to be high quality time that you spend accelerating the student and showing them the next path and making them aware that there is a lot more that they can go an extra mile to help themselves through all these resources that we have. And one of the most enjoyable ones, which is playing and gaming, it's in our platform. Yeah, so don't forget that, because I think it's great as well, a great resource. Okay, guys. Well, it's been a real pleasure. I want to thank you, all of you. Well, Fiona has to mention something maybe before we go very quickly.
Yeah, very, very quickly, Radmila. You've mentioned a couple of times about gaming on the platform. As I'm still relatively new, can you explain where we can find that? I don't really know anything about this gaming that you've referred to.
You know how you can very quickly see that? Register yourself as a student using one of the links in the promo button, and you'll have the student experience. The game is in the student area in their progress.
Okay,
so,
perfect. Thank you.
I encourage you all to do that.
Great,
Bev?
thanks.
Sorry, before we go, can you you said you were going to tell us about Blanca's amazing week.
Oh yes, Blanca,
Can we
please.
quickly hear?
Yes, of course. Sorry. Yeah.
Sure.
Would you mind sharing?
Yeah, so I'm kind of new here as well, maybe 3 weeks now, I think. And it was kind of slow, a couple interested students, but nothing really. And then Monday I woke up and I had like 30 interested students. And that came from a former student of mine when I was living in the US. I was teaching her Spanish at a combined middle school and high school. And it turns out now she's famous on TikTok. And she messaged me asking about my classes, and she shared my link on there. So you never know where it could come from, and I don't know how many of these students will actually turn into students. But the name is out there now, and that's from something that I did 5 years ago, teaching her and helping her because she was really interested in Spanish. And so just be nice to everyone and get the word out there, because you never know how it can come around.
Mm-hmm. The truth is that you've got, nearly 30, more than 30 leads in 2 days, or it's something amazing. TikTok seems to be the new craze, so try it. Try videos there. Mark, you would be amazing on TikTok. All of you, actually. Of course. Georgina?
Yeah, no, wait, just one thing. I'm a bit obsessed again with the community, and I've been working till very late this week, and for some reason, at midnight, I have the ideas, okay?
Okay.
But so I have a lot of ideas I would like to do us together, but the first one, I already told you, the Christmas video, when I started publishing it on the groups, that I got many likes, and I was like, well, why are they liking my video? And why are they not liking the stuff about vocabulary? And so I thought of we should make a video again, like Christmas, very simple. And I would like, if you agree, everyone to say I am Oxinity in their language. Well, maybe Sonia can say in Portuguese. We have a lot of different English accents, so that could show the world or whoever, our clients, that we are the community, that we're rich, that we have different origins and accents and all of that. And I would really want us to do that. And I'm offering myself to edit the video. If it's necessary, I can do that really simply. So yeah, I would like that to happen. So if all of you want to participate, just find me on Teams and we will organize, and I will give myself even more work, but I'm very happy doing all of that.
Amazing.
I will copy
really,
Blanca, by the way.
Really cool.
I will copy Blanca. I'm going to try to look for...
Definitely. You have to be there no matter what. Sonia has to be there. Yeah, we will help you with all these initiatives, Georgina, but you have to be on TikTok. Sonia, Bev, Mark, Antonella, great communicators, Fiona, all of you guys, you're great communicators. So you have to be there. Steve, come on, all of you.
Well, no, I was thinking of finding like famous guys on TikTok and ask them to do the work for me, but
you will be.
I'm not filming myself, Ramila. I'm not filming myself. It's hard for me to do that, surprisingly.
All right, fair enough, as you wish. Work with the partners, as you said. Yeah. There are so many fantastic communicators that, yeah, absolutely, we'll help you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, amazing, amazing. Okay, guys, so thank you very much for this talk. It was great. I really look forward to seeing you next week for more questions and issues. And you see, this video, we're going to make the most of it. I don't know the English word, pero lo vamos a petar. So, help me with this translation. Lo vamos a petar, for sure. Okay.
We're gonna nail it. We're gonna nail
it. Or blow it out of the park. American.
Yeah.
Definitely that.
Baseball reference.
Okay, cool. Great. Thank you, guys. A pleasure.
Yeah,
thank you.
Everyone.
Thank you, Radmila.
Happy Friday.
Bye, guys.